we have some very special guests who Eliana will introduce to us, who are doing some really good work on Capitol Hill, talking to our legislators. And so I'm going to pass it over to Eliana to introduce them to you, and then we will begin our conversation. So again, thank you and enjoy your lunch.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're going to have a very important conversation. But before we get started, I would like to introduce our guests. Our first guest is Amira Musallam. She's a Catholic peace activist from Bethlehem, Palestine. She's currently resisting eviction from her family land by Israeli settlers, all while working to bring team of Unarmed Civilian Protection to Gaza and the West Bank. Her story is one that resonates deeply with countless of Palestinians striving for peace and justice. She joined us today to share her own journey and highlight some ongoing peace-building effort in her community. And Amira is Mel Duncan. Mel Duncan is the founder of Nonviolent Peaceforce. He has been working with a consortium to bring a team of Unarmed Civilian Protection, also known as UCP, to the Occupied Territory of Palestine to provide direct protection and solidarity with local community. Mel will share more about current UCP effort and how to get involved. Please join me in welcoming our guests.
Well, thank you very much for having us and for giving us lunch. We actually spoke at a lunch yesterday and didn't get lunch. We try to schedule meals. I always feel at home with Pax Christi. We're there at the beginning of Nonviolent Peaceforce, and I look around and see friends who have supported it. Worked for so long. Eliana actually is heading up the team that is developing the curriculum for the team that will go to Palestine. John has been a veteran and going to be in that group that goes. We have a lot of people here who have just given their lives and know exact. I mean, I don't need to give much introduction here, so it's nice to be here. So thank you. We've been traveling together a lot. So a little bit in the way of background. Unarmed Civilian Protection now has really been developing well over 2 decades. Nonviolent Peaceforce, believe it or not, has been working in areas of violent conflict for 21 years. We started out in Sri Lanka, and now I say I graduated from there and retired from there a year ago right now, and came out of retirement about 20 minutes later to work with Amira and others. So I want to be clear, this is not a project of Nonviolent Peaceforce, but a broader consortium that's working on this. But what we've seen is that the methods of nonviolent civilian protection have been proven to work in some of the most violent places on the planet. This is an example of active, non-violent, strategic applications of methods that have shown themselves to work. And what's exciting is Nonviolent Peaceforce has developed and is working hard in places like Mindanao and Aceh and Myanmar and Ukraine and South Sudan and other places, including New York City and North Minneapolis. But the bigger story is that there are now at least 60 civil society organizations that are doing forms of unarmed civilian protection in at least 30 places in the world. And that's the open war. And we know that because Selkirk College in British Columbia is keeping a database. But there's more. And that hasn't happened because there's a couple good organizers out there that's organizing, people to do unarmed civilian protection. It's happening as a response to the crimes. And it's happening because people are seeing that this is an effective method that we can do. It requires discipline. It requires nonviolence. It requires courage. But the threshold is accessible to a lot of people. It doesn't require armored personnel carriers. It doesn't require a lot of equipment. You have to be well trained. But here in DC with the DC peace teams that some of you are involved with, it's happening, and it's happening in a lot of places. And that is what civilian protection and peacekeeping is going to look like in the 21st century. Now the UN, the biggest expenditure of the United Nations is not on refugees, is not UNICEF and children, doing the wonderful work that they do. It's on UN peacekeeping. They're armed soldiers. I mean, I've worked with them in the field. I know what they do and I know what they can't do. And they can't do a lot. And the face of the civilian protection and peacekeeping in this century will be well-trained, unarmed civilians who are committed to nonviolence. And we've studied this, not just Nonviolent Peaceforce, but what other groups are doing around the world. And there's things in common, including we're all committed to nonviolence. We don't have a backup armored group that's waiting. And we get asked that. We got asked that a few times. We were at the UN last week. We're here this week. We're going back to New York this weekend. Well, what's your backup security? Well, it's us. It's the community. That's our backup security. No, really. What's your backup security? Well, we're safer when we don't have guns. Also, that something is in common is that the primacy of local actors. That this is a bottom-up form of protection. It's not coming in and enforcing anything. It's building on what's already there and supporting what's already there, and then going from there. Another thing that we found in common among most of the groups is that it relies on women's and youth leadership, and that's so important. So in South Sudan, for example, there's more than 60 women's peacekeeping teams that are strong women in a society where they've been traded for cattle, and where they are now stepping up and protecting women from gender-based violence. They're keeping kids from being abducted as child soldiers. They are changing the nature of that society by what they are doing. We also, let's see, can I remember other things in common? Well, I'll leave it at that. So, a group of us got together, and Eliane was there a year ago right now in Geneva. 85 of us from 30 organizations came together to build a community of practice and to share in common what we had in common and to learn from each other, because all these lessons that we can't just let them go off into thin air. And so it was so exciting to see people coming in from all over the world who had never met but knew each other. And those 3 days that we spent together were just precious. But we landed in Geneva. So we came in hope and we were greeted by horror. And the opening speaker was the chair of the board of Nonviolent Peaceforce, Musallam, who comes from East Jerusalem. Her she left Tel Aviv early in the morning on the 7th. There was no news of what was happening. When she landed in Geneva, it was all over the screens. And at that event, she challenged us as to what we could do collectively to respond. And she all reminded us that what's happening didn't start that day, that it started a long time ago. And what could we do collectively to respond? And that's what brought us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they called me, a colleague, a dear friend of mine, Sami Awad from Bethlehem. Sami called me in like June and he told me, would you like to be on the team where we are going to see if UCP works in Palestine or not? And of course I didn't think twice, I told him sure. And here we go. We had two other internationals, one Canadian and one German, who already have experience in UCP and in other areas, came to Palestine, to the West Bank, to Bethlehem, and we were together for 2 weeks, just moving around the West Bank, from Hebron to Bethlehem, to Nablus, to Jenin, to Ramallah, talking with people, asking questions, seeing whether it's needed or not. And I guess you know the answer. It's needed, and it's much very needed. It's needed not tomorrow, not today, yesterday. Unarmed civilian protection, because we are not able to protect people in another way. So UCP is a way to protect civilians. In our assessment, we found out that there are 25 different organizations doing UCP in Palestine, locals, Israelis, Palestinians, Jews, Muslim, Christians, and foreigners. The only problem with those groups, they are too small to be able to organize bigger things or to be able to respond to multiple places at a time. They need all the support from coordinating to organizing to money also, and they don't have all these resources. And the one important thing, that their people and the people who do the work, they are only volunteering. So they are leaving their houses for 1 day, 2 days maybe, 1 week, but then they are gone. And maybe they will come back after 1 month, maybe after 2 months, but they are not there responding to all calls of UCP. So in our assessment, we came out with 2 main recommendations. One of them, we need UCP, and we need to deploy 100 people to start with a number. Of course, we will need more people, but to start with a number, we will need 100 people who are already trained, who have experience in other countries, to come to Palestine and first of all do the UCP, help protecting civilians, but also help to support those locals who already do the work, train them, get them ready for after 1 year when those internationals will leave, those locals will be able to do the work that is needed to be done in a correct way for their own safety and for the safety of the communities. And so we must deploy people right away to the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza. I know you're asking Gaza. I know it's needed and it's much needed. Problem, it's too dangerous. We just cannot deploy people there. Nobody can guarantee their safety. Israel has been bombing even internationals. So we really cannot guarantee the safety of those people. We will not deploy anybody to Gaza unless we will have a ceasefire. And when the ceasefire happens, the first moment, and actually we need to put the UCP even in the negotiation for ceasefire. We need to start talking about it from now, not when the ceasefire happens. We need the UCP as soon as they say ceasefire. We need to have people there helping in everything, helping in accompanying people and escorting people into the safety corridors, taking people from the south to the north to the west, to the east, whatever. We need the people to help in making sure that humanitarian aid is getting to everyone. because we heard so many stories that some people are taking much more than others, and some people are left with nothing. We also need UCP to be there, present between people, between the communities themselves, because after all this horrifying things that we saw and we heard of, people need help. Some people would fight together for nothing because they are like traumatized, and so we need them there to support them even in trauma and healing. So in our study, this subject of trauma and healing was there. It's really important. So this is for Gaza, but for the West Bank, we need to deploy right away people. And as I was finishing the assessment and saying goodbye to my colleagues, I had a phone call from my in-laws. My in-laws are Arab Israeli. They are not. They don't have Palestinian passport. They have Israeli passport. They live in Beit Jala, but they have Israeli passport. They were actually expelled from Ankara in 1948. But because they ran, when they were expelled, they went to Jerusalem and not to like other countries and other areas. They got the Israeli citizenship back then, and so the citizenship came from the grandmother to the kids and so on. So my in-laws, they have Israeli citizenship. They are Christian, and they are also French citizens, and also they have a land in Beit Jala, in Al-Makhrur area. It's a neighboring city of Bethlehem city, and Al-Makhrur, it's the only green area in Bethlehem district that is left for us to access, because the rest are taken by settlements, settlers, bypass roads, apartheid wall, fences, and you can name it all, So the only green area that is left for us, beautiful area that is owned also by Christian families from Beit Jala and Bethlehem, is going to be taken over by settlers. They already started in the nearby village, which is Batir, building a settlement. It's called Nahar Heretz, and Smotrich just gave the blessing just a few months ago to start building that settlement, which will connect the northern settlements like Gush Etzion area, north side of Bethlehem, with Jerusalem to create the greater Jerusalem. And Al-Makhrur is just next to Batir, next to that settlement. So I got this phone call from my mother-in-law telling me, hurry up, help us. And my son was there. My son is 9 years old, Ramzi. And she told me, come get your son, hurry up, the settlers are attacking us. So I ran, and the first thing I saw, my son standing there with his only toy that is left after those settlers, those mean, without a heart settlers who crushed his toys in front of his eyes. And so he was left with one car, standing there looking at me, and I had no words. What can I tell my son? I just ran to him, hugged him, I tried to comfort him, told him, Habibi, don't worry, Mama, I will buy you a new one. Anyway, those were very old, and I took him away, sent him to my mom, and went back to help my in-laws. And because my in-laws are Israeli citizens, they called the Israeli police for protection. And guess what? The Israeli police came 15 minutes after the call, and they arrested my ex-husband. They arrested him instead of protecting him, and took him to jail, and gave him a restraining order from the land, from his own land.
Oh my goodness.
While those settlers are there, just moving our stuff out to the street, throwing it out like this in the street, rushing things around, and also those settlers were kids. They weren't even adults to speak with, to try, to negotiate things, or tell them like listen, or bring them the to make them sympathize with you, that we are Christian family, don't do this, we are peaceful people, don't. No, kids 11, 12, 13 years old with knives. What would you talk with these kids? Nothing. And actually, the times that we tried to talk with them, they were attacking us with a knife, like running behind us, and I was like running around the land. And so I was left alone with my sister-in-law and mother-in-law in the land, not knowing what to do. Palestinian Authority would not come to that area because it's Area C. The Israeli government is with those settlers and they are backing them up. Big, and the church would not interfere in such situation, unfortunately. So this is where we need the church to be. I don't want them to send me money and then get killed by a settler. I want them to protect me. So the only thing I was left with was the UCP. So I was doing the assessment just a few days ago. I called to all those who did UCP in Palestine and Israel. I told them, listen, I'm not calling you for an interview. Come, help me. And honestly, I was really very happy and surprised. In 2 hours, I had more than 20 people coming from the different organizations from Israel, mostly Israelis, Jews, who came to my land with their cameras, with their bodies, to protect me and protect my family. And they were there between me and the settlers, preventing any physical harm from the settlers. And they were there trying to negotiate with the IDF and showing them the papers, because we have Israeli land registration for our land. It's not like, we inherited it from our grandfather and that's it. No, we have like official papers. We were in court. Actually, in 2019, the house and the restaurant that my in-laws owned in that land, they were demolished by the IDF. And so we went to court to prove, you cannot do that to us. And we were like in court. And guess who was in court against us? The JNF, the Jewish National Fund. It's somewhere that everybody should look at. You have to, those people needs to be sanctioned, because they are the ones who are funding it all. Honestly, they are the ones who are funding the violence in the West Bank. They are the ones who are funding, what do you call them? The ones that got sanctioned yesterday by the UK, Amana. So they operate in Israel under different names. They don't operate under the name of JNF or Jewish National Fund. They operate under the name of Amana, of Haminota, and others. I can give you a list of names that they operate under in the West Bank, funding those individuals.
And the
JNF.
Jewish National Fund is a registered charity in the United States.
And just last month, actually, Canada took some action, and I'm proud of them. Canada took the action to stop funding the JNF because they proved that the JNF was involved in all of this, in settlers and settlements and expansion and so on. And they also removed the charitable status from Canada. So here in the States, we can do the same. I mean, if those who are, funding it all, why not to go to those who are in the top? I know it's a fight, but we have to do what we can do. So those people came, protected me, really, and recorded everything that happened. I have videos, material. If anybody wants, I can give you a drive link where you can see all the videos from the first moment they entered until today. And also UCP protected us physically. Those settlers are out of control. They are just really, they can do whatever they want, even kill us and get away with it, because nobody will, maybe they will go to jail for 1-2 days and then they will get out. So the UCP is an important factor in really recording and making sure that everything is well known. Actually, my sister-in-law, at one point, after few days, she was arrested by the IDF. And she was accused of 8 different things. And one of the most dangerous accusations was that she tried to kill one settler and run over him in a car. And they took her to jail. and the next day we were able to take her out of jail because we had footage just proving that that was a lie, and that kid, he jumped on the car. It's not like she went to him, you know. He just like was standing there laughing with his friends, and suddenly when he saw her coming, he jumped on the car, and he was like, ah, you know. It's like, and then he went and accused us of trying to kill. So luckily, there was UCP guys who took the footage. She was out of the jail the next day. Okay. Okay. She got out of the jail the next day, and with no charges, because we had evidence that she didn't do anything wrong. And then we were there. We had a solidarity camp nearby the land. We made like a big tent, and we were there, Israelis, Palestinians, Jewish, Muslims, Christians, just staying together for the rest of the month. All August, we were there, eating together, talking together, praying together, doing like Friday's prayer, Shabbat and Sunday's prayer in the same place, all together, surrounded, and also being protected by those settlers, because my family, my in-laws, they didn't have anywhere to go, so they were in that tent, and the settlers tried several times to like spit on them, curse them, and you know, be just violent with them, even running over them in the car. And by the presence of those UCP, nothing happened. Like really, nobody got really physically harmed. And also they marched with us every day to try to get our land back. So we would go march to the land and protest, peaceful protesting, pray, sing, you know, just show them that this is our land and we'll get it back no matter what. And those people were surrounding us, making sure that we don't get beaten by the IDF, because the moment we start marching, you would see the IDF in front of you, trying to, you know, send you back or hurt us. So they would like use stun grenades, tear gas bombs, and so on. And those UCPs were in the front line, telling them like, don't do that. It's peaceful. Don't worry. Nobody will, you know, do any violent attack or anything. We just want to try to communicate with those settlers even. But anyway, we couldn't. Actually, one group called Rabbis for Human Rights, do you know them? Rabbis for Human Rights came one day, all of them rabbis, and they went, marched with us to the land where they spoke with those settlers, because those settlers are very religious. So they come from a very religious background. So those rabbis knew better how to speak with them. And so they started mocking the rabbis, spitting at the rabbis, you know, eating bubble gum and blowing in their like face. And they were very insulting to the rabbis. And yeah, so imagine what kind of people you are dealing with here. It's like not even Jews. This Judaism is not about, it's not like that.
Right.
It's not like that. Those people who protected me really were Jews who were protecting, who were very nice, very sympathetic. They were listening, they were trying to comfort us all the time. In other places, I want to say about UCP, it was very successful, not only by physical presence, but also one method is accompaniment. Accompaniment in South Hebron Hills, it's a Bedouin community. It's like different Bedouin communities around one area, and they have one school to go to. So they would go from their communities to the school, and when there was nobody looking and there was no UCP, the Israeli army and the settlers would attack those kids. Many of those kids were beaten. Many of those kids were killed. Many of them were like kidnapped, and then like, you know, they beat them. They had blood all over, and then they send them back or send them to the IDF even. And since the UCP was present there doing accompaniment, so they would walk with them from their communities to school and back from school. Almost zero incidents happened. So UCP I might give you many examples, but because we don't have enough time, and they're like everybody's like 5 minutes, okay, stop, and I'm gonna stop. Let's not worry. UCP is very important for us, for our security, for our also emotional, status. For us, we feel that we are not left alone. Somebody cares about us when there is UCP, and that make us stay and not run away and seek asylum somewhere in other country. So anyway, what did I miss? We have been doing this, oh my God, for the past 2 weeks. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, so, please go ahead.
No, why don't we open it up for
Yeah,
questions
questions,
and
yes.
conversation? And before I say that, somebody always asks, how can we help? So the most important thing that somebody could do is if someone could call us an Uber for 1 o'clock, we have to be back.
I'm gonna drop you.
You already did that. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
So again, thank you both for being here. So I guess I have 2 questions, and it's how we could try to get Catholics in the United States to be more active in supporting you. So the first thing, it sounds like Bethlehem University hasn't been helpful at all. That, yeah, it's not surprising. But right behind us is a building, United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, and they have not been good on it. But like, if you or somebody else come the next time, I think we should try to have you meet with some of the bishops there, and hopefully, because you have a very compelling story, and hopefully their ears will be open. But I know, yeah, as a American Catholic, I feel, yeah, Palestine is an American and a Catholic, so anything more we can do, if you have any ideas of what we could do. But if you come back to Washington, please let us know. We'll try to have you talk with the Bishops' Conference.
I mean, bishops, probably they can help in like what we are doing now with the State Department and the senators and all of these people up there on chairs. We can push them to at least provide protection for the Palestinian people who are in the West Bank. So bishops, for sure we can get them to, and we have to get them to protect Christian Palestinians. You know that Bethlehem, we were like more than 95% Christians, and now guess what? We are 15%. 15% from different denomination, and I don't know about Catholics, but there aren't much. They have left searching for a better life. So if the church is really wants to keep Christians in the Holy Land, they need to do something about it. Don't send us money. Money is important, I tell you. We need money. Everybody needs money, and especially in Palestine, while we don't have lots of jobs, our salaries are really bad. We don't have, retirement plans. Like, it's really bad. I can sit with you and tell you about these details. But come on, we need. When I'm in a situation like this, I need the church to come for me. I don't want, Jews coming for me. I want the church. Since the land was stolen, I have never seen one person from the church, neither Catholics, neither Greek Orthodox, no one have contacted us, not even contacting us. Like, I don't want them to come if they are afraid. Okay, call me, tell me, how are you? What do you need? Do you need some sandwiches to eat at least? Nothing. They have been as if they are, a different foreigner thing there, and we are not like Christians. So yeah, we need to do something with the church. We need to get the church on the ground doing this work. And sorry, the EAPPI, what's the
Ecumenical
Yeah.
Project. That's a project of the World Council.
They are doing UCP, but what kind of UCP? Monitoring, writing reports. It's not intervening, and in the time of really difficult times, they are not there. When our land, they called me. Some of them called me, listen, we are a little bit down the valley, Is it safe to come? What? I told them, no, thank you, don't come. It's not safe. And I hung up the phone like, why do I need you if it's safe?
A couple more things on that. We did meet with the Holy See at the UN last week and asked for the Archbishop's support in getting language about unarmed civilian protection into a Security Council resolution. He spent more time quizzing us than responding, but we do think that he is going to help. He wasn't as affirmative as we would have liked him to be.
But he will help on a UN level. We don't want you, but okay, UN level is good from there, but we also want people on the ground. No.
Since last November, I've contacted the nuncio here, begging him to ask the Pope to go to Gaza or to the West Bank or to Bethlehem or somewhere. And I found out by asking the pastor, the Bethlehem pastor who came recently, that the two groups who came, is the Palestinian and Jewish groups who are working together for peace in Palestine. Two of them went to the Pope, met him in Rome,
Yeah.
and during their
Combatants for peace, yes, I know that.
I don't think it's
No?
combatants.
There was
but
others.
it might be like that. Anyway, they asked him to go to Gaza. Nothing has happened. So I don't know how many emails I have to the nuncio, and obviously he's never written back. But I'm hoping that Pax Christi, that all of us will ask the Pope
Yes.
to go, and people could go. I mean, there are people who've gone. I've gone. I don't know if you know Anne Montgomery, but Sister Anne Montgomery was in Bethlehem, in Hebron, in Ramallah, from Christian peacemakers teams for years. So there's been lots of Catholics who've been trying over the years. But now, doesn't it seem like something that the Pope should do? I say Gaza is a concentration camp. It would have been good for Pius XII during the Nazi era to go to a concentration camp, try to be with the people, cut a hole in the fence, I don't know whatever, and be there. That's the comparison I'm making for the Holy Father. Go as Pius XII didn't go to the concentration camp of Gaza and beg for an end to the killing. Now, of course, they've closed the Egyptian border. And I know it's dangerous everywhere. In the West Bank, we know that Rachel Corrie was killed, in Gaza they were killed recently. The young woman was killed, shot to death in Hebron, was it? I don't know. I'm not, okay. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping, that Pax Christi would write to the Pope and ask the Pope to go. Because obviously, just a few people asking is not going to work. And the other thing that I'm asking people to do is consider tax resistance. Because people are funding the Israeli group, but we, taxpayers of the United States, are funding the weapons, whatever. Without our money, it's impossible for them to do what they're doing. Maybe they'll print more money, I don't know. Somebody said that yesterday. Oh, Kathy, they'll just print more money. But our money, I'm from the Catholic Workers, so I have the example of Dorothy Day, and she refused to pay taxes, federal taxes, refused to pay for war. I don't know if you include that, but it seems like, how can we pay for war and try to stop war at the same time?
I agree with you.
Thank you.
I have a question. When it comes to UCP, I think it's going to be very hard to mobilize bishops to come out and say something or to do something. However, I think there's a lot of young adults in the United States who are Catholic and who want to do something, who want to do something more than just donate money, more than just sign a petition or put their name on an email. This sounds like an actionable item that maybe everyone can't do, but a significant number. How do we get this to them? How do we get this information to young adult Catholics in the United States who want to do something? because I find that even for us who are kind of tapped into things, there's a lot of things we just don't know about.
Well, for the 100, we're looking for people who have worked with one of the UCP or peace team groups, who have experience working in conflict and have training. We're trying to get that word out as widely as possible. We're starting a recruiting effort in about 2 weeks and building a roster. We certainly can get that through Pax Christi. How would we do that? Get that word out through Pax Christi? Through Judy? Okay, so we'll get the word to Judy.
Then we'll give you
Are there other avenues that we should look at?
Meta Peace Team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Mel.
Good to see you.
I think I have to put my thinking cap on. I just think that in conversation with a lot of young adults who are minorities, right? So people who are second, third generation Hispanic or who are African American or whatever culture they may come from, who feel, number one, if you're in the United States, you are born with a certain level of privilege, and who have been educated, who see the injustice in the world and want to do something about it because they're coming from communities who've suffered their own injustices, and then seeing how this is a perpetual cycle that I think for the first time a lot of young people who are persons of color have the cognizance and the awareness to actually know what's going on in international scene. I don't think that was available 20 or 30 years ago. So you have a whole generation for the first time who's actively involved in what's going on in the world. I think those are the people who are like ready to mobilize. They just aren't aware of the information. So I'm willing to put my thinking cap on and figure out how to get that information.
There are groups that are sending shorter term. Like Meta's got a team there right now.
Right.
Although you got one guy sent back.
We have Meta Peace Team has 5 people
Go
there.
ahead and introduce. Tell people who we are.
Okay. My name is Stephen. Can you see me, Judy?
Yes.
My name is Stephen Emiche. I'm the National Field Organizer here at Pax Christi USA. I don't know if you knew that, Mel.
I didn't hear that.
About 9 months ago. I'm also the president of Meta Peace Team and their hub coordinator. And we have a team over in Gaza right now. In fact, 3 of them have been detained. And we're trying to follow up to be sure they're okay. But Meta Peace Team is an organization that's about 30 years old that trains people in UCP. That's how I know Mel. I've known him for about 6 or 7 years now. And that's a good vehicle for getting the word out about, especially to young people, about the opportunity to get involved.
And Meta's sending teams, community peacemaker teams are sending teams, Jewish
Yes.
Center for Nonviolence. Maybe, Judy, we could get a listing of those teams that are sending shorter term as well, because there are a number that are doing that.
So, I mean, thank you. This is powerful. And I mean, I think connections are everything. And I wanted, you probably know, but there have been efforts here, Christians for a Ceasefire, Eli McCarthy and others, in coordination with Sabil in East Jerusalem, but also with Munterisak's parish in Bethlehem. Groups have gone, 2 have gone in August, and 1 teamed up with rabbis for ceasefire as well. Yeah. But just trying to think as a first step in terms of recruiting, in terms of people becoming, aware of the reality and hearing on the ground, ways to connect with those efforts month by month, delegations going to meet with your communities on the ground. I know there were people met with Alice Garcia and your community. They went to the border of Gaza, but it's all good. And these, I mean, your presence here and your stories and your ongoing efforts for us to hear and to mobilize.
Alice Casilla is my sister-in-law. So
She's your
it's the
sister.
same case, it's the same case.
Yeah, so we were with her.
It's the first group you were,
Yeah.
I wasn't there, I just like left and you came, yeah, I heard it, yes.
But thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question? I mean, we can send you more information, the reports that we did, you know, actions to take, steps to take, either like individually or with your community or with your organizations. We can send that and you can, send everybody. Yes? Yeah, okay, so, yes.
I wonder if you could, if it's possible to explain briefly a little bit of the practice of UCP for you mentioned that you wouldn't send a team if it wasn't safe, that's why you don't have a team going to Gaza. But then you mentioned, why would you come if it were safe? So people listening may be wondering how this works in practice in danger.
I have lived that on for 20 years. There's a friction point. We really have to determine the line between, is there a way that we can influence the actors? If there is, then does that justify the risk? And those are judgment calls, and those are excruciating judgment calls. If there is a way that we can significantly affect what's happening, then usually the risk is justified. Amira mentioned Gaza. We probably cannot justify bombing from the air.
You just,
And that's been shown over and over. Again, going back to one of my heroes, Maud Royden, was trying to organize during the Sino-Chinese war. And so, but those are judgment calls. And, you know, we don't do this work to be martyrs. You know, that's not a sustainable strategy. But at the same time, we do accept a advanced level of risk. And, you know, Rachel Corrie was mentioned, and Eisenhower. And there have been, in the last 20 years, of the groups that have been doing this work, we know of 4 of us who have been killed. 3 have been in Palestine. And 1 has been in Iraq. So I say that with all humility, because every life is precious and we have to be careful. But at the same time, we do accept levels of risk, and we do accept that some of us may be killed. That's a tenet of nonviolence. We don't go out deliberately
to be killed.
for that to happen. But that is an acceptance that we have in doing this work.
Even us, when we were like going to the land to make, to march to the land, when it was too dangerous and there were too many of them and we were little number, we wouldn't go. So it's really like you have to really study the thing before you do the action. So we wouldn't just like walk, this land is ours, no. And when we did it once, only once, we really were so excited and we wanted to go. And we were around 10 people. They were 6, but the 6 of them, they were all armed. In that moment, it was too stupid to do this, step, even we were 10. Because the 6 of them were armed and we didn't investigate before going. We didn't let someone to go before us and check and then come back and tell us. We just went. And that was the biggest mistake that we did during all these 2 months that we were going there. So yeah, so you have to really not just go.
Just a
you met the State Department these days?
That's tomorrow?
No.
Today.
Oh, that's today.
No.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There is,
3:30.
because there is,
You know my schedule better.
because there is a mechanism for supposedly sanctioning settlers, right?
They already did.
So then how do we up that and sanction, cabinet members, and what can be done? That's a question for them, how to strengthen the numbers. And
Yeah, so
level.
there is this organization that, or a lawyer office that we met just when we came here. It's called Dawn, one of those law offices, and they are working on that very hard, and they are distributing, tasks on everybody, like, okay, how you can help them, come do the investigation here, do that, and they are doing a good job about sanctioning, not individuals, because that will not really help. Go for the higher ranks, yeah.
Josh Paul is working with them.
Yes, Josh Paul is working with it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your sharing. I'm Sister Susan, Amira sister, also a former EAPPI. Of course, I know the struggle we had with the headquarters about the kind of risk we could take and not when we were there, and with our accompaniment, there's that big, what do you call it? It's hard to be in a place and there are some things that you are told, no, you can't go there because it's too dangerous, and that used to be an issue. However, you talked about the UCP and the people, like younger people who would want to go, but they need to have a training in nonviolence accompaniment. I'm wondering if here, especially there are organizations that would just take that up to train